Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Kicker Rock's podcast, 2 Drink Minimum. This is episode number 9, and we're doing things a little bit differently. Our local music lover and all-around hooligan, Joe Munno, Kicker Rock's very own Joe Munno, went out into the field and interviewed 2 local legends and fellow podcasters, Kenny Braasch and Tony Martino. So download and subscribe to their podcast today. It is called We Have No Idea What We're Talking About, in which they banter on a lot. And as you're going to hear in this podcast, these guys sure can banter, all of them. It's pretty great, a lot of fun. They're going to discuss things like Kenny's longtime role as the talent booker at one of our local watering holes here on the south side, 115 Bourbon Street, the birth of Right Stuff Entertainment that's brought to you various entertaining acts like Boy Band Night and Hair Band Night. And then he's going to talk to Tony about his life as a musician, touring with bands like Local H, and his roles within his current and most recent bands, and of course, a whole lot more fun stuff to come. So sit back, relax. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy.
All right, Kicker Rock fans, this is Joe coming back with another episode of 2 Drink Minimum, another sit-down interview this time.
I like that name.
Yeah, I do.
I have Kenny Braasch and Tony Martino.
Hi.
From
we're
115 Bourbon Street. And, we're not doing, this is not video. Sorry, Kenny. I felt like we'd have to get a release from your agent to do video.
You would.
Right? We definitely would.
And for me, you would need a release from him because he's my agent.
Then he's impossible to get to sign anything. Like, he won't sign anything, so that's fine. I know that well enough by now. So I guess speaking of that, we can, like, right off the bat, we were just sitting here talking about, I guess, how old we all are now.
Yeah.
Because we've all known each other for over 20 years
yeah.
at this point.
You are the oldest.
I am the oldest by a year. I've got you guys by a year.
Yeah.
The beauty of us being as old as we are is that none of us have gray hair yet.
No, I have a couple on my head.
Right.
But I also have a child.
Oh, so you have a child.
I have a child, so having only a couple is a feet in
that's
itself.
Pretty, yeah, that's impressive.
I have some.
But you have people that color that for you, right?
It's in my hair that's not visible. Not my everyday hair.
Your nether regions.
Your nether regions.
My everyday hair is not gray.
Okay, your everyday hair. So what we're doing now with 2 Drink Minimum is we've kind of taken things like outside of just video and movies and film, like talking about that kind of stuff, and opening it up to any kind of topics in all avenues, like similar, I guess, to what you guys are now expanding your show into.
Yeah.
So obviously, please go ahead and tell us about your show, and then we can kind of get into some history here.
Well, our show is the basis is like behind the scenes sort of like band topics, like being in a band stuff.
Yeah.
So, because Tony's in a band and I, book bands, and we've both been doing the shit for many years.
Yeah.
So we just kind of try to pick topics, like give people a perspective of like what goes on behind the scenes, sort of.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a huge fan of your show. I listen to it every week. So,
well, thank you.
I like the DM segment.
Yes.
Is always a favorite.
If you have any DMs, we can read them.
We can add them.
I'm not important enough for people to DM me, man. Like, let's be serious.
Maybe we should talk to Lurch.
I wonder if he's got anything.
He's
from
got
his years of the.
We
being
can
at
read
the bar.
the ones that I've sent him in the past years.
That might be a not safe for work situation.
Well, that's the better ones.
Those are the good ones.
Right?
And those are the way that we have it set up. And it literally, we don't really put a whole lot of thought into what we're going to talk about. This idea just came up randomly. And so what Kenny does, Kenny will read messages. They're either to his inbox or to my girlfriend Sarah's inbox. And I have to guess whose inbox they're from. And Kenny gets a lot of men that direct message him.
I feel
as
like,
well.
isn't it? It's all men, right? You don't get any female messages. Right.
Gay men.
Well,
not even one female.
Not one. Well, I think the females would be more shy and intimidated to message, Mr. Supermodel here.
Well,
as opposed to, like, gay men are very much, they're more.
They don't give a shit.
Yes, thank you.
I get a lot of Puerto Rican men.
That's interesting.
I don't know what that means.
You have darker skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be.
I've been getting a lot.
And anybody that follows you on Instagram sees all of your skin.
Yeah.
So
I get a lot from Eric Ortiz for some reason. That's
well,
because we never released the names of the people that send them, but a lot
Right.
of them that I've read have been
Are
from
from
Eric.
Eric
Ortiz.
Ortiz.
Or Aaron, maybe.
Well, those ones I only read the ones I don't respond to.
Okay. Aaron's you respond
Those are
to.
actual conversations.
Okay. All right. All right. So I guess to get this back on track a little bit,
See, you're getting sucked into what we do.
I know, and this is turning into like one of your episodes.
You just
as
sat
opposed to
here.
one of
We
ours.
talked about cover bands and original bands, and then we talked about marijuana, and then we talked about peeing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when you have to pee on stage. We
No,
don't.
I feel like
It's
your
important.
conversations are like kind of conversations we would have had 20 years ago.
They are.
They are. That's
They're
what
the
they
same
are.
things.
Yeah.
We're still children.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that by any stretch.
Yeah.
We're all just grown children at this
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys, Kenny, you mentioned it earlier, like when you guys were describing your podcast about the bands and the cover bands and all that kind of stuff. And basically it's what you both do for a living at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I remember on one of your shows, Kenny, you mentioned that Tony was the one that got you basically into music
Yeah,
the way you are now.
for sure. Back in 8th grade, maybe, or
High
even
school,
probably
freshman
freshman
year?
high
Freshman
school.
year.
At
Yeah.
Oaklawn.
Yeah.
Oaklawn Community High School.
Oh,
Go
we'll see.
Spartans.
Smoke lawn.
Smoke lawn.
Smoke
Yeah,
lawn.
smoke lawn.
But yeah, because when he started, because then right after high school, he started what was touring with Local H too, and that was like another step of like getting involved with like knowing what's going on behind the scenes with bands and shit.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, I started working at Bourbon.
Okay. And so, Tony, obviously you influenced Kenny at a young age. What influenced you and made you want to follow this path?
The first thing that influenced me was the movie La Bamba.
Oh,
Yeah, Buddy Holly's my number one influence, and then Kurt Cobain, Local H. Ironically, Kenny can attest to this. Like,
Yeah.
I was the biggest Local H fan in the world, and then that, I don't know, I just kind of played in bands, and then got the opportunity with Local H. So then I learned a lot about what goes on in the business end of it, and I learned that you can actually make some money playing music. And then I started working at Bourbon Street doing production stuff, and that's how I got the in with the cover band industry, and then I just kind of rolled from there.
nice. Cool.
Yeah.
So what was it like to be a part of a band that you like all through high school that we all like loved, like, and then you became a part of it?
The
Like,
best way-
talk about that.
Watch the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg, and that's exactly what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I literally, it was pretty shocking and kind of felt like a dream for a while. But like, I grew up like playing guitar in my room to Local H, like pretending that I'm at the Allstate Arena, and then I got to do that.
Yeah.
And
I was at that show.
the Creed show,
That's awesome.
They opened for Creed when Creed was Creed for a minute.
yeah.
Back
But they-
when
I mean,
off their first album,
it was a
basically.
sold
No, it was a couple albums in.
It was
the-
Bullets.
Yeah.
Whatever album Bullets was
Weathered.
on. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
All right.
that show was huge. It was a sold out show at Allstate.
And that was when he got all fucked up.
And it was his last. That was literally
his last show, right?
Yeah.
That was the show when Scott Stapp lost his mind.
Yeah.
And that was the end of Creed after that.
Yeah,
Creed
they went on
ended.
to like Alter Bridge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For the other
Yeah.
members.
And we saw that shit. We were
saw it all.
backstage, yeah.
Me and Tony were literally on the side of the stage
Like
as
witnessing
Scott
this.
Stapp left the stage mid-song,
Yeah.
like 3 songs in.
And just
We went
completely-
backstage. He was sitting in a fucking folding chair with a towel over his head.
Like,
And the band was still playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Tremonti, because from Alter Bridge,
Yeah.
is the guitar player. He was kind of like trying to like, it seemed like take over a little bit.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
He literally sat back there and the band was still flying. It was so weird.
How long did that go on? Like, when did they finally
It was the
stop
whole-
the show?
It was.
It
they
didn't
went through.
stop.
It didn't stop. It went through
He
the whole
ended up
show.
going back up, and then for most of the show, he just sat on the drum riser and sang the songs. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It was. I don't understand. I
Remember,
don't know.
we left the arena, and they had cops in riot gear around the arena.
Yeah, people were
because people were mad,
Yeah.
right? Like they were pissed.
People were throwing beers and shit. We thought
it wasn't a cheap ticket. It was
No.
probably 30, 40, 50,
Yeah.
50
So,
$60.
Needless to say, like you were the best part of that show then.
Local H
like
killed
Local
it.
H.
Yeah,
being
it was
like,
awesome.
So, and that back to the whole point of the story. But Tony opened for Creed direct support. Like they played right before Creed, and it was Local H was great. Scott from Local H was like running through the arena,
Nice.
like. And then he kept taking the "I love Scott" signs because his name's Scott too. So he was acting like it was all
it was all for him.
Yeah.
Scott's dad.
Yeah, for me it was awesome because I got to go, backstage and everything with Tony, and I think I was there with your lady friend at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was very cool.
It was great. But that was that whole part, and I did all that when I was 20, 21 years old.
Right.
So like.
Yeah.
Getting that opportunity that early
Yeah.
and that young, and to play with all the other bands that I got to play with and experience all that shit.
Q101 was still
We're still a thing.
Yeah.
still
right?
a thing.
Yeah. And that helps out a lot. It helps us get on.
And I imagine like 2021 going out on the road like that, and whatever that had to be.
And they had a legit
eye-opening.
bus.
Yeah, we were
Right.
bus. They were bus.
When he went with H, it was a legit tour. Like they had just Brian had just joined the band.
Yeah.
The drummer.
Mhm.
And that was like their revival because they were kind of quiet for a while.
Yeah.
Right now they've actually just recently had a bit of a boost too with the whole Metallica thing opening for Metallica
which
this
is
past
great.
summer, which is awesome. And of course we get to see them once a year.
We have them at Bourbon. Yeah, it's usually once, maybe twice sometimes, but usually at least once.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, and I should mention, to keep in the spirit of the whole 2-drink minimum theory or philosophy, we are recording this at Bourbon Street right now.
This Bourbon Street Studios.
Yes.
Bourbon Street Studios. I mean, we're legitimately 50 feet from a bar, so we are keeping the trend here and the theme alive.
Absolutely. So you guys
for what we
always
do.
record in the bar in a bar.
No, we actually never record in a bar.
Really?
You could say
I've recorded in a bar. Now this will be the second
one
for myself. But normally we sit around together but we do drink normally while we're recording. I mean, most of our shows open with us doing a cheers, with our drinks.
We have water. We have water.
You guys don't drink.
I got a
so these are probably the first two ever, or probably only sober participants of 2-drink minimum right here.
Well, I'll drink a little bit still, but
Not here, you don't.
I already had my. Tony's not drinking at all right now, and I did that a few years ago where I didn't drink at all for an extended period of time. But
I did too, but
now it's 2-drink minimum for me.
Yeah, there you go.
That's about
there you
that's
go.
about your drinking experience now. Well, we all remember when that wasn't the case.
No, that was
Those Sundays.
that was the glory days.
Oh, it was so much
right.
fun.
So we can even, I guess, jump into that. Again, we're just kind of rehashing old stories and stuff at this point. Kenny, what was the music influence that Tony provided, and that you got to see what kind of drove you to even coming here for this position, that the talent buyer position?
Well,
or did you start as that, or did you work your way into this role?
No, I worked here for about a year before I started booking, just doing promotion coordinator, or whatever. You want to call it. It was basically a hodgepodge of responsibilities of whatever.
Sounds about right.
But I did deal with the bands. I was the point of contact and stuff like that. But
so, sounds like your role here when you started was similar to what my role turned into here toward the end of my run.
Yeah,
I was working with the bands on the show nights for you.
Yeah,
but I was also doing whatever promotional stuff there was and stuff like that. So
you working at a bar, you kind of just pick up, just a bunch of random responsibilities. You're basically trying to fill holes of what's not getting done, and be like, I'll take that, you take this, blah blah blah. This
place was a much different place then too than it is now, obviously. So you've been here.
Well, I've been here for this is 15. This is my 15th year.
Yeah, and so you've seen all the changes, all the growth.
Yeah, this place, Bourbon Street, just constantly evolves with the time. We've talked about, back in the day, when I started, it was one small stage, and where we are today, there's 3 stages, and 2 rooms hold. The performance hall holds 12, 13. You could probably do even more depending on tables.
Right.
1,400.
Yeah.
the saloon, 600-700 people room,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the new sports bar, which ain't new anymore, but that room's capable of almost 2,000 people.
Right, and we've
all
actually
in one.
seen that. We've seen that happen.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy that a venue can have 3 rooms separate like that.
That can hold that many.
amount of people.
You know, and we have seen those rooms all filled and at various points over the years.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it's not big enough, and sometimes it's way too big.
Right.
Depending on in the middle of winter in a snowstorm on a Saturday
night, right? It doesn't matter who's playing.
It's a little too big. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, and you've done a good job the last few years, and I know we've had this conversation of loading your January schedule because January is a slower bar month.
Yeah. Well, what we did now is we moved the singing competition, the one, to Fridays. So basically, we're only doing bands throughout the winter on Saturday.
So you're making them like more bang for your buck, I guess, right? You're just,
Well, yeah, we had 16 Candles last week. Those kind of bands. The boy band night, hair band night, wedding band, Rod Tough Curls.
All the favorites. Like the ones that the people want to see for sure. Yeah. Like you're getting those in
so
there.
We're like focusing on those great shows and then also focusing on the singing competition.
Right. Well, yeah, when you have to pay, Mark Nielsen, the host.
He's expensive.
That costs probably the same as what some of these bands cost these days.
We'd be lucky.
We're shopping for a new MC because he's.
I can be available on Fridays. I'm just going to throw that out there. We actually got Mark for free this year at Kicker Rock as a part of our 48-hour film project.
Oh, okay. So
that's good to know.
That's good.
He did make our blooper reel too, so make sure to check that out.
So he's okay.
Because he's an actor at heart,
Out of I
recently watched his feature horror film over the week. I actually watched it this past weekend.
Have you seen this?
It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Disgruntled.
I've only seen his pornographic material. I've never seen.
I thought that he was just sending that to you exclusively in your DMs.
No, I've seen it on. I saw it on RedTube, I think,
or PornTube or RedTube
or whatever.
X videos.
Ujiz.com. Nice.
That's free promotion.
So here again, we're off. We keep going off, like completely off the rails here.
We're me and Kenny are like the ADD of the podcast world.
Absolutely,
especially if we start talking about porn.
Yeah, you start talking about porn and we can't stop.
Is this your contractual feeding here, Kenny? Thomas just brought his food in. It's like it's in his contract.
I paid for that shit.
Right.
That's cage-free farm fresh kitchen or chicken.
All right. So
what?
Try to rein us back in.
Yeah, talked about Mark Nelson, and I got all riled up.
Yeah, and it happens. It definitely happens. Okay, so back to I guess Tony now. Like you did your local H run. You did a run with my old neighbor, right?
Who?
At State Madison.
Oh yes, yeah.
The Blazinas were my neighbors.
Yes, Blazina.
Yes. And that was after local H, right, or was that before?
I actually left local H before it was State Madison. It was a band called Triptych, which was pretty much the same fucking band.
Right.
But
I remember having that demo like years ago.
Yeah. We put out a couple albums, and it was good. It was heavier, kind of heavier.
Blazina sang on that.
Yeah, he sang on all of it.
Yeah.
But I was touring with Local H, and then Nick had called me, Nick Blazina, and he said, we're looking for a bass player. Do you know anybody? And I'm like, I don't fucking know anybody. And at the time, I was a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asked me if I wanted to try. I never played bass before. I'm like, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. So then I did. I ended up getting that gig. So I actually left Local H. Talk about like jumping and had tried to really taking a risk. I left Local H to work on
to start something.
You were
already a part of something that you didn't build, you didn't grow. You
it kind of
inserted into.
Yeah.
But now this was a chance to build something
on my own and like not just be a hired gun. Like with Local H, I was a hired gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Which. Not even downplaying that at all. It was amazing. Like I got to do all the rock star shit before I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
So like that kind of motivated me. Like, well, I want to do this on my own. And having the connections with Local H that we did, and all the connections that I made through the industry, it helped us out a bunch. We got on a bunch of Local H. We did a couple like mini Local H tours and opened for them on New Year's a couple times. Like
Nice.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, then I went on to the original band world, which is different than the cover band world.
Right, and then what happened there? Like, when did you leave that? What changed for you that brought you, I guess, to the cover band world? Because I even think of, like, you know, of course, we're trying to remember years back and lots of drinks later.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't see you for a while, and then you kind of resurfaced with Hairbangers. Yeah. So, like, what was that situation? What was going on there?
I towards the end of the State and Madison run that I was in, and I'll be totally candid about it. Like, everybody in the band will tell you exactly the same thing. The music just kind of wasn't going in the direction that really excited me anymore. It kind of got a little bit more mellow. Anyone who knows me, who's ever seen me perform, I fucking move around a lot. I jump around. I'm energetic. And it just, the music, it was still good, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. The band didn't really want to tour as much anymore, which was, in my mind, I was like, well, I don't think we can do anything if we're not touring. So, and at the time, Jack, my son, was maybe 5 or 6. So it was kind of like, if we're not going to really pursue this, if I'm not really feeling the fire that I felt for the music, I'm just going to bow out. And, we're all still friends. We are all, I always get the new State and Madison records. I give my input on the mixes and all that.
Well, actually, it was a post of yours that even made me think about them for the first time in ages. I feel like when you posted about the new album, and it was like, oh, wow, okay.
And I sent it when I made that post. I had sent him. I wanted him to hear one of the songs. So there's still that support there. It was just I wasn't feeling the music anymore, and I had no plans of performing really anymore. I just kind of like, well, let's see what happens. And then, around that time, Kenny asked me if I wanted to do lights and production here on the weekends. And I'm like, fuck it, yeah. So through that relationship, that's when I kind of came across the 16 Candles and the Hairbangers. That's how I met Hairbangers Ball, was because of Kenny giving me the job here. Mm-hmm. And then it just all happened through the grapevine. And then they needed a bass player, and they reached out to me. Claire remembered that I was a bass player, and then that started the whole cover band.
Right, and you had actually, I know, just for, like we talked about, you took on different roles within that band as well.
I did.
You came into it, but you didn't just come in and just play. You like kind of took the reins on it, and I drove some things that maybe they weren't doing.
Yes.
To help better the band and the presence of the band.
Well, what they kind of did is, I came on as just a bass player, and then the band wanted to hire like a marketing director or whatever, and they asked me, like, would you be interested in doing this? Just because I had more experience with the business end of stuff. And so I ended up doing that, took the marketing director gig, so I handled the social media, I did all the graphic design, the website stuff. And then on the road, I just had more experience than a lot of the guys in the band with tour management and all of that kind of stuff, dealing with the clubs, figuring out, where, to get the band the beer, all that shit. I was kind of the bitch on the road, but that's my natural kind of element. So I kind of took all that on, and then I was also the musical director, so I would make sure the band sounded good, all that stuff, and which I enjoyed. It was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that kind of, I guess, leads us to where we can kind of all jump in here. I know, Kenny, we're kind of skipping around like stuff for you. Yeah. Like, you've been doing this at Bourbon for a long time, and there's probably a million questions. Like, I feel like the I Know Vince and I Know Nick has evolved into I Know Kenny too. Like, that's become a thing.
It has.
Like, people
maybe I could get some stock options.
Well, we know that's we all know that's not happening. But yeah, I mean, that's especially just, if like musicians wise, we'll drop that.
Like, that's because because the two owners have allowed me to handle this stuff and not get involved.
Right. Yeah, you've had a lot of like freedom over the years.
Yeah, so it's like they let me do my thing and trust the process, and not saying that they don't know what's going on. They just they don't try to micromanage too much with it, which is great.
Right, and I mean, and it's worked obviously because everyone's still here.
We still collaborate and talk about what's working, what's not working. But it's just a good way to do business if you own a club. Having people you trust to run the different areas. You know,
Right.
a club this big.
Right.
If you own a little bar and you own it, you're gonna probably run everything yourself because
Right.
you don't got
But-
money to pay a bunch
Yeah,
of people.
a place like this definitely requires a team, and I got to see
Yeah.
that firsthand after years
Yeah.
of just being a regular,
Yeah.
I guess, and then coming on board for the time that I was here. I got to see that. So, again, you mentioned like they don't micromanage you, and we've talked about the evolution of this place and how it's changed. And
Yeah.
you've had a major like part of that. You've been a huge part of that between bringing in some of like the bigger acts that you've brought in and like the need for a big, huge, massive sports bar stage. Like you helped create that.
Well, the
the
whole thing behind that was basically just looking at the building and trying to maximize the space.
Right.
For a long time, it was, you know, the performance hall had bands Friday and Saturday, and the sports bar had bands as well at the same time. So we're booking
You were doing
4 bands in 2 nights, and it's
Right.
expensive.
right.
But we do so much private stuff, and from weddings to MMA to wrestling,
All the countless benefits and fundraisers.
So we basically, you know, we basically have turned over the performance hall to be sort of a multi-purpose room
Right.
that gets booked for private stuff first, and then if there's holes in the calendar, I'll go back and book shows and
Right,
fill
like,
the holes
like you
with.
recently had like Blackened in there.
Yeah,
or, like some of the
Blackened,
bigger shows will go in there.
And sometimes I'll keep more of the heavier, like if we'll do a metal show, like Smells Like Nirvana is doing a show back there.
Yeah,
Stuff like that. We did the Korn Band, Freak on a Leash, the Lincoln Experience, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Right, and I'm loving that you've kind of added that into the mix recently in the last probably 6 months or so.
Because this stuff's been working great.
Because
so,
it's people our age
Yeah, yeah.
that are coming to these shows because
Yeah.
it's the stuff that we grew
Yeah.
up on.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
And luckily, there's been some good bands out there, Louder Now,
Yeah.
doing the pop punk,
Yeah.
late '90s, 2000 stuff. There's bands that are good bands that are doing that stuff, so that we're able to put that stuff in the room.
Right.
Because the alternative would be, you know, if the bands weren't good, then we wouldn't be able to.
You wouldn't be able to do
Yeah.
it, right? So, you're finding these good bands and
Yeah,
again
I mean,
and helping make this place evolve. And you know, there's the one
Yeah.
and the creation of the one.
Well, the
and,
one has
like,
been a big deal. It's become like our sort of like anchor to
Right.
the calendar, because the one runs twice a year, two 10-week periods. So
Mhm.
that's what 22 weeks out of the year, because there is a off week in there.
right.
You know, that's half your calendar. And now that we moved it to weekends, that's really
That's even-
tightened the calendar. But now when you go see a show, like you said earlier, it's really just like the best bands in
Right.
Chicago are playing right now here.
Right.
Not to say, I shouldn't say that, meaning it is actually unfortunate because there's some great bands that I can't even get in the room right now.
Right. That
So-
you may want to, but
Right,
yeah,
I
right
mean,
now
there's-
it's just tough.
Right. And it's been hard booking wise because we've gone from a point where I have like a gazillion open dates to fill and give a lot of bands opportunities to having literally the super tightest schedule ever.
Right.
And really great bands I might not be able to get them in as often or ever
Right.
Mhm.
as we used to, which
Yeah.
kind of sucks. But in the big picture, it's good for our customers because you know that you're going to get a great show.
You're going to get a
no
great
matter
show
when
every time you come.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Which is awesome. Like if you're coming in here on a Saturday night, you're getting a good
It's-
show.
Yeah.
You know.
You're going to
Yeah.
get the best.
So, and then speaking of good shows, and we kind of put a pause on Tony's conversation because we got to that point
Yeah.
in his career
Yeah.
that includes you
Yes.
at this point with the Right Stuff Entertainment.
Yeah.
How did that whole situation come up? Like you started with boy band, but what's the story there? How did you and I guess your partner Glenn come up with all this and create this?
Yeah. So, I mean, once we got the boy band going, which we basically put that together from scratch, me and Glenn Hootie. And, once it's like anything else, it's like you do something and then it's like you did that. Now it's like, what's next? And then
Right.
you do that. And then it's like, okay, now what do we do? And it's just like any company evolving. So it's like, we did the boy band thing and we got it set. And then we're like, okay, why don't we do this? And then we started to mess around with the hair band night. And then the hairband night got up and running, and then in the Ron Burgundies, we started working on that, and then the country night. And we got a new one coming out called 90s Pop Nation coming out in a couple months.
Nice. That's awesome.
They're already
That's
working.
awesome.
They're already been practicing. So it's really just...
But I guess like the real question is, I guess, what even spawned starting any of it? Like, what made you decide, like, hey, I want to try and put this band together with the boy band night?
Well, that started because we did an event called Boy Band Night, just random, and it was just a huge success. So, looking at the scene, knowing that wasn't really out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we sort of stumbled upon something that wasn't really being done, which is hard to do, I think.
Right, especially now.
Yeah.
We talked earlier, 10 years ago when Sergio and I were wanting to do our cover band documentary thing. And at the time, Two White Crew was the only one doing what they were doing.
Yeah, right.
Now there's how many different bands playing their same set inside of their set. Like,
for sure.
You have some of these
Which
bands
is all good. I mean, even if, look at the 80s hair band scene across the country. There's 8,000 bands doing the same thing. But to me, that's good because now it's like now you got something to compare it to and say who's the best out of that group.
Well, and I was going to actually, that's kind of where I was going to head with this and with you, Tony. So obviously you created something new that nobody was doing with Boy Band Night, and it's been a massive success. And I don't know if you even noticed this, but I had a little deal with James about wearing a Kicker Rock shirt on stage. So he did wear that. Yeah. Matt has one somewhere.
He smoked it, I think.
I think James is actually holding it ransom, I think. But those guys said, we'll absolutely wear
James
Kicker Rock
wears
shirts
it all the time.
Yeah, which is great. I love that. But then the hairband night was next, and I feel like that was a much more risky move because the market already has so much, and Hairbangers Ball, in fact, that was the name.
And there's really, I mean, like I said, you look across the country, there is some really good 80s hair metal acts.
Yes.
I used to book Hairball out of Minnesota.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember those guys.
And they're still to this day killing it.
They're crushing it.
They're one of the best ones I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So with the market more saturated, you had a band you put here frequently with Hairbangers, and you, for lack of a better term, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but you poached some talent.
Not poach.
And that's why I'm saying, like, lack of a better term. Like, you guys can obviously correct me on that, like, the story of how that all came about.
Tony and Andrew had left the band, so
you were already out of the band.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I see. That's something I don't think I realized is that you were already out of the band.
Yeah.
We never ask anybody, and it's out of all the bands, I don't think we've ever talked to anybody that was like
actively employed.
Yeah,
elsewhere.
I mean, people have been in bands, but they're like part-time in bands,
right? Okay,
or subbing in bands. Because Frankie, I mean, all our guys are in multiple projects,
right?
And the hairband night wasn't really meant to be something that was going to be working constantly. It was really just going to be, we're going to do a few shows a month at good venues and
corporate events and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like,
it wasn't built to be like Weekend Warrior style.
What basically what it's kind of evolved to, just by because your shows are good.
They play. I mean, this festival season's busy.
Yeah,
right.
But we still try to keep it, Bourbon Street and stuff like that.
Scooters,
they do really well. But we don't. We're not just picking up any.
You're not just doing random here and there stuff.
No, we'd rather just do.
You're being like selective on the shows you're playing, and
because then it gives us time to promote that specific show, and make that each show great. I mean, you run into a 2-3 show weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and you're by doing what you guys are doing, like you're making each show like something to see. Like you said, you're making each show better and different.
Plus, the guys in the bands, you can't ask your friends and family to come out. I'm playing you're gonna ask them to come out every weekend.
Every weekend,
but if you play Bourbon Street every 8 weeks and you're out in Joliet a couple times a year and you're over here a couple times, it's like you can get people to come out but you're not gonna get them to come out twice a month, every month, So
right, and you don't want that, like either from your perspective, like as a business.
And that's the other thing too, just from being more on the business end of what everything that went on with Hairbangers. It's a hard thing to do, and I don't think a lot of people realize when you have the bands that work full time, and a lot of these bands, these people that are in the band, like some of that's their only gig. That's the only way that they make money.
It.
So it is hard. It's really hard because every week, we'd have to be like, all right, I had marketing plans made 6 weeks in advance for every city, and like I'd have to follow up constantly, which was fine. That was part of my job. But the way that things are done now with the hairband night, it's much more focused, and I feel like I compare it to like being in a quiet room talking to one person or having 50 people talk to you at once. It's like everything's just more concentrated on that. And I just got to say it, the poaching thing, I still to this day I still get people messaging me. I actually had to delete my other my Hairbangers account.
Right.
It was getting too crazy. There were people that were genuinely pissed at me.
Because they thought you just up and left.
They thought I left, and I did not leave. I was terminated from Hairbangers. So
Andrew left.
Yeah. And Andrew had been that was in the workings for a while. Like he had gotten an offer.
He was on his way out already.
He didn't want to do the weekend
and
thing
he's
anymore.
got a lot of he's got a full-time job.
Yeah.
So
right. Which he loves his job. Like
this
will never replace.
He was able to join our the hairband night because we basically said it's not going to be.
But it's a lighter schedule. It's a lighter load, and even like we were saying, like if you are beating a dead horse, like when you're playing in a band like that, your set list is limited in a sense. Like you can't continue to grow, and like you guys have a different set list than like Hairbangers does. Like you guys got outside of the box a little bit over what they were doing. I feel like I've seen you guys do more.
Well, we don't have any female either.
Yeah,
right.
So there is a different.
So there are some changes to it, like just from that perspective alone.
It's a different show. At the end of the day, it's the same music.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're playing like the same set or the same songs every month at the same spots, you can see that.
It's a harder thing.
Right. Yeah. And but you brought up festival season, like for somebody like me that worked in that industry and went to all of these street fests and all these festivals and seeing the same bands every week over and over, that can be exhausting. And where you start to lose interest a little bit. So again, you guys keeping it a little fresher is a good thing.
Yeah,
they do because hairband. And that's the other good thing. They have time to practice. There's a bunch of new songs in the set.
Yeah,
I mean,
that you guys have never touched before.
There's going to be, you're always going to get your basics, and then you're going to get some new stuff.
You guys recently talked about, what was it, Jesse's Girl?
Yeah,
you guys talked about
We're
that
doing,
on your show.
Not doing Jesse's Girl, but the fact that
everyone does Jesse's Girl.
We were having a conversation about songs that are overplayed.
Wagon Wheel and
Don't
Jesse's
Stop
Girl
Believing
and Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah, which we have.
Living on a Prayer, we've been recently talking about.
Yeah, that was actually with Jack.
Jack brought that up. Yes.
Jack brought up that one, right?
Tony's 11-year-old son said Living on a Prayer was overplayed.
Right.
Which is true. But I think the thing too, like it was Kenny's idea, and we did it for the first time this last weekend. We're like, we don't have a female, but we're like, let's take a female song and let's do it with Andrew fronting it. And we did Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar, and it went over great. It was awesome. And
that really just came from, because the boy band night does Spice Girls, they do TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm like, it could be the same.
It absolutely could.
I mean,
there's no reason that it can't. Like, just because it's originally a female vocalist doesn't mean it has to be.
Right.
And the women in the crowd went apeshit for it. It was great.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
Because even like bands that have like females or front women or whatever, they're not just gonna do female songs,
right?
Yeah,
So why wouldn't the same apply like the other way around?
Yeah. I mean,
that's cool.
There's, like you talk about Then Again. I mean, they do a ton of female stuff.
Yeah,
stuff.
A male singing female.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And Jason's ability to sound like a female is pretty fantastic.
But at the end of the day, it's still like, okay, the whole cover band scene as a whole. Generally everybody's doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it really comes down to like, what's your state, what's your show, what's your presence on the stage? Because ultimately, the customer, the people are going to decide who the big bands are, because depending on if that's how who's got the crowds, because those people are making their choice.
Right.
The only thing you can do to control those people are kick ass on
to have a good show. Like again, to go back to what we were talking about, like the hairband night was a more saturated market, like a more of a risky move than the
Very.
boy band night was
Yeah.
because of that. So you guys had to be awesome. Like you
Yeah.
had, and your shows are like.
Well, those are
nothing,
great
like,
musicians. I mean, anytime we put anything together, it's always all our musicians are
Top notch.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys aren't getting just like mediocre,
No, I mean, these are all
group.
great guys. So
Yeah.
it's just, and like you said, the hair band night shows are great. They're a tight band. They're a tight ass band.
Right. They are, and like all the bands are though. Like that you've I have gotten only to see a little bit of the country night so far.
That show here was unbelievable.
They're
I don't
great, too.
I don't
I mean,
like country music,
Yeah.
and I loved that show.
That's awesome. Like
They're-
I'm looking forward to seeing them
Because
I
it's,
haven't gotten to yet.
it's a very new country look.
Right.
They're not up there wearing flannels and
Big old
cowboy hats.
cowboy
and all that.
hats,
So it's
right.
very, very new country, but it's also very. We treat it like a rock show versus,
Right.
It's not laid back at all. It's very high energy. There's all the musicians in that band are great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're awesome.
But a lot of them have rock background. Especially like the drummer Nick is in a Nirvana band, and
Okay.
he's been in metal bands, and he looks metal.
Yeah,
Yeah, he looks metal.
he's
so it's like,
badass looking. Yeah.
So it's
Nice.
like they have a great look. They're going to be back in action next month
Okay.
or March. They start.
March,
I mean, because we got them going. They're still putting together the show though. They're still
Their
adding material.
Their first show here was a little bit of a shorter set, right?
90
Because it
minutes,
was because it
played-
was still new.
Yeah,
you
we
know?
played Halloween, and then we played December 2nd. They did a 2-hour set here, and that was about that was about the limit, 2 hours. But now they're going to be playing, both Bub Cities, Bourbon Street, stuff like that.
Nice.
This coming year.
Right. Well, and I guess having this venue as even like a testing spot for you guys is awesome. Like when you guys did that beer garden set thing before Hairband actually was launched.
Yeah.
The official launch wasn't until October, but it
Right,
was
we
like
did,
August.
We did
guys
the acoustic one, but the Burgundies actually did a full live show out there.
on a Wednesday night. I was here.
It was great.
I was supposed to be hosting movie night,
Oh yeah. I remember.
and it rained out.
Yeah.
Movie night got rained out, so that worked out great for the Burgundies because they were doing a show regardless, whether
Yeah.
I had a movie
Yeah.
outside or not. They were doing it,
Yeah.
and now they had that chance to have an even bigger audience, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was absolutely awesome, and those guys are great. They might be my favorite. No offense.
No, they are.
None taken. None
They
taken.
are. They're my favorite.
They're my favorite.
But I've known those guys. We've all known those guys I've known them as long as I've been here. So it's
Right.
it's cool to.
It's
be
funny.
working
I
with
just
them.
had Fitz last week at
Yeah.
Braasch's.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, like
and
all
Dave
those
did,
guys.
and Dave Waterman did an entire Irish New Year 3-hour Irish set at,
Yeah.
at Blackthorn for me. Like
She's awesome.
Those
yeah,
guys.
that they're very,
Those guys are
they're-
like the top of the line players. Like those guys are just,
Yeah, because they play everything.
everything everywhere,
and they
like,
play it perfectly. And it's like you watch them, and it's like, it's the type of band that you watch, and you're like,
They're very.
dude, I can't.
And they're
I can't
so
even
good
play
with their
anymore.
characters in the Burgundies. Like we've sat and watched them.
That's
Like you and I
because
sat and
they're-
watched them that night.
They're playing themselves. That's why.
Yeah.
It's not a character.
It's not accurate.
That's what I said when we got these guys together. I'm like, these guys are. This is what they are looking like every day, and this is how they act every day.
Right.
Yeah.
But we just sat and watched like Dave. Like
Dave.
it's just it was outstanding.
Yeah.
Like their characters and how they were on stage is equally entertaining as the music.
Yeah.
Like
No,
and
it's-
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
So I'm looking
they're
forward
fun.
to seeing them back here. I know you got them coming up in a couple weeks. So
weeks, yeah.
so we can kind of like pull this back together here. And,
Mhm.
what's next for you guys? Like what's next for Tony and then Kenny for you, Bourbon Street and Right Stuff Entertainment? What do you see coming next? Or what are your goals for this year? Like,
Well, next I'm gonna eat that chicken breast.
yeah, now that your lunch is super cold, can't believe Thomas brought it in so early like that.
We're just continuing to come up with ideas, and we're not like trying to just put a bunch of bands out. We're trying to fill voids that I see and that could work, with the exception of like you said with Hairband Night, like that's been done a million times throughout the country, but we're looking at possible voids to fill band wise, like ideas,
like in the
concepts for
market, like
bands.
what's
What's
missing.
lacking?
But I'm also not opposed to looking at stuff that's been done, like Hairband Night, and trying to just do it better. You know,
Right.
I take that approach as well, saying, hey, yeah, this genre's been done a million times, but I think if we put whatever our spin on it, maybe we can do a better job of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, and also maybe that, you know, at the end of the day, it'll spark some competition and make everybody work harder. All bands. Just I think if everybody has a competitor, you know, breathing down their neck, you know.
That's always is better for business.
Competition's always better.
Competition
It's
creates
better for people.
Like
Right,
competition just creates better quality.
Just look at the bar scene. I mean, there's a bar every block.
Right.
So that's the most competitive thing there is in Chicago is the bar scene. There's 8,000 bars.
Right.
And we're all
8,000 bars and 20,000 bands.
right.
Yeah.
Like, so
So at the end of the day, the best of the best is gonna win, but that's always just decided, like we said, by the people. They're gonna wherever the people decide to go.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's that, and we might expand off and actually work on some event stuff, like
Nice.
overall event
Okay.
planning type things. But
I know a guy that used to do that for a living. Just throwing that out there.
yeah, but we're always looking at stuff like, you know, I got 800 things I want to do.
Right.
Literally, like
Yeah.
And
all
that's
kinds of shit.
right. We managed to go this entire time, and like we only hinted about you being a model. So so that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'm really glad we kind
I
of
don't
danced
even
around that.
that stuff is sort of just whenever opportunities come up, but it's not full time, you know.
Right. It's not something that it's not your passion like this other stuff
No,
is.
I mean I keep it. That's a whole nother. That whole industry's tough. It's very. Speaking of competitive, it's very competitive.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
Yeah.
You know.
you got guys across the whole world basically vying for one booking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
crazy.
Honestly,
That's
like,
crazy.
If Versace or Dolce & Gabbana, anybody's looking for, or Ralph Lauren, it's literally you versus every single guy in the entire world
Right.
that's signed by an agency that they could pick from
That's-
to have
yeah.
in that ad.
No,
That's
no, thank
insane.
you. No,
Yeah.
thank you. Like,
It's super
No.
competitive, but yeah, I mean it's whatever. I mean I stay in the game, but I don't focus on it.
but it's
as
not
much
like
as I do
you're not
our
actively
stuff,
Yeah.
like chasing it, you
Yeah.
know, as opposed to what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I
here.
still keep my shit fresh on Instagram and stuff, obviously,
Right.
because I know you look at it.
I actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't. Did I ever tell you
He's
what?
lying.
I'm lying. You're right. Did I ever tell you what myself and two of your photographers actually?
Are they nudes?
No, Joe Lang and Lex.
Yeah.
A long time ago, we actually were jokingly going to do a calendar recreating some of your poses
You
and
should
like
still do
your modeling stuff. It was the three of us were going to do that.
You should still do.
Do you have
Joe-
any idea how many gay guys would buy that follow him on Instagram?
Not when it was me, Lex, and Lang. Man, we're not
They were
attractive.
going to do it.
We were going to recreate.
They
We were
gonna
going
do
to
the
recreate
poses.
the poses. Joe
You guys-
called dibs. Joe
I'll
called dibs
shoot
on
it.
the ass shot.
I'll
he wanted
shoot the
that.
pictures.
Can you guys do this?
It's a good concept.
I mean, I think it would be hysterical.
That'd be great.
Would you like to be a part of it?
No.
Scott Arnold would buy it.
Right? And Eric Ortiz.
No, I will do it as long as I can be in the horse picture.
Done. We
The
can. I
horse
think we
picture,
can
I like
agree
the
on
horse.
that.
Yeah, we got to get it.
I mean, anything with like ass, Joe Lang wanted that spot. He wanted those spots.
I do a lot of farm animal work.
Let's not touch that. Let's
Tony,
just.
what's your plans for the
Yeah,
future?
yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Kenny. Yeah, Tony, what do you see? Like, I know you and I have talked, and we are kind of starting another aspect of your musical career coming soon here in the acoustic world.
Yeah.
Playing with Sarah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it won't just be me booking you, but you know, I'm helping you start that. I suppose.
It came up like you know, there's always been like acoustic bands here, and I have buddies that make a living, you know, playing acoustic, like
Yeah.
Mark, you know. But with our calendars, because like we said, the Hairband Night doesn't play every weekend, so then I have the weekends available. If I'm not, you know, I'll either work here or I'll play with, you know, somebody else, whatever.
Right.
Like I got a lot coming up with Smells Like Nirvana, and yeah, you mentioned the idea of us playing acoustic, and we're like, fuck it, let's give it a shot.
I think I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean it'll be fun. So I have that coming up, and
so that's March 1st.
Tony also
at
helps us with a lot of our stuff, website stuff.
Yeah,
like similar to like the marketing stuff you were doing.
Mm-hmm. I'll come up. I'll probably text Kenny 30 times a week with some fucking crazy idea or something that I have.
Tony helps us out. Dave Ambrose, the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Boy Band Night, he does a lot of side work for us too.
Nice.
Like he came up with the Country Nights logo, which I think is fucking great.
Yeah, it's a cool logo.
I love
for sure.
that logo. Yeah. Which is another cool thing about this, the Right Stuff Entertainment, the company.
The night shift.
The night shift, yes. That's when
everybody gets together and things get weird.
But everyone works cohesively together. So like even like Nick, the drummer from the Country Night, is also the drummer in Smells Like Nirvana.
Yeah. Right.
But we all kind of help each other out. It's more of, I hate to use the cliche term family, but that's how it is. Like everybody gets along, and that's rare when you get that many people together, that many musicians especially, and everyone gets along. There's no bullshit, and everyone wants everybody else to succeed.
That's awesome. It's cool. It's like a team, like you said, family, whatever.
Because I don't like it when bands kind of hope that a certain band doesn't succeed or does shitty, because we all need every band to do well.
Like we just talked about that, like the competition thing, like all of that.
But for me, besides just the bands we're making and whatever, all our guys, we all support all bands because
well, you have a calendar to fill.
We're just trying to contribute to the scene, which is a strong scene, and keeping it strong.
Yeah.
And clubs like Bourbon Street, I kind of look at this club as like a trend-setting club, like a bigger club that can influence.
Right. If somebody does well here, it's kind of like if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere kind of thing. If you can have a good show and a good showing at Bourbon, that's going to open doors to so many other places.
Absolutely.
Because if you can do it at Bourbon Street, you should be able to do it, whether it be a street fest or like a Joe's or anywhere, basically.
If you look at the whole state of Illinois, I really would just, you're looking at Bourbon, Joe's on Weed, Joe's Live, is like
those are like the proving ground kind of places. Those are the best of the best.
Kind of where you want to be at some point.
Yeah.
Playing.
For sure.
Yeah, like as a cover band, that your goal should be to be playing those two places, and
doing well.
And doing well, right?
Yeah.
Right, and to get that 8:00 Sunday slot for John Barry, that's a goal too, because not anybody gets the 8:00 Sunday slot,
No,
it's a tough slot.
So, it is. Yeah. It is a tough slot. Like you guys, even your first year with them, didn't get the 8:00s, did you? You guys got the 6s.
Yeah, we doing a bunch of 6.
Mm-hmm.
Then you did have your back-to-back, the one, right? Your hair band, boy band, back-to-back, which was cool.
We've done that a couple times.
Mayfest. I think it's snow.
No, that was the first time we did it was Oktoberfest.
Oh yeah.
That was our first show.
That was you did. That was your first show.
They played,
like literally first show. Like you played Oktoberfest and then came here.
And we played here
for your official first show.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that first show was not exactly that it was technically not your first show. It was more so when we celebrated the anniversary a month, 1 year, 1 month, and 1 week after after the anniversary. Remember, you and I joked about that.
Yeah, we did.
We were laughing because you had your 1 year anniversary.
The anniversary shows are whenever we decide.
Wait, you guys decide when it was?
Maniversaries.
There you go.
It was a maniversary.
I don't even like. Those being like the anniversary.
It just adds another layer. It just gets.
You know what it is? It's an
marketing
excuse.
Thing.
Like it's exactly. It's just it's
like
an
even with bourbon. It's like you got your anniversary weekend, but I know we're gonna make big plans for the 20-year anniversary, but it's
right. But everything else is kind of been like
17-year anniversary. Like it's like
there was plans for a big deal for the 17th this past August, and it was like,
plans.
But it was like, wait a minute, well. Let's just save the big party for
I think 20
the 20.
Years.
The 20 is
25. Like every 5 years seems
any
like.
bar that's open for 20 years
deserves to be celebrated.
Joe's is having their 25th year.
Really?
I think this year. It's been like it's sort of their 25th year,
Wow.
I think.
No, nice.
Something like
Wow.
that. It might be more.
Wow.
I think it's 25. But it's pretty, and that goes back to what I'm talking about. Like, you were talking about bars that have been here for a very long time.
Yeah.
And been supporting the scene. The entire Bourbon's been doing bands since, not right off the bat, but pretty much
Damn
early
close.
2000s.
Yeah.
I started here in 04 or so, and they were already doing bands in probably 02.
Right.
01, 02, they started doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were probably coming here to see bands back
Oh,
then.
absolutely.
Like, I know I was. Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We were.
Uh-huh.
We are old.
God, yeah,
Old
we are
balls.
definitely old, but you know what? It's a privilege to be able to, still be here all these years later and still call you guys friends.
For
you
sure.
know? And having had the opportunity not only to work together, but to stay friends as long as we have is pretty cool.
For sure.
I think we're more of acquaintances.
Actually, it's funny because I remember when I was.
We're
I
assholes.
can't even go I'm trying to stay on course here.
So you can't do that with us.
But I can't. No, it's fine. Well, do you remember when there was concern about us being able to work together because nobody knew when I was taking over the one management thing?
That we knew each
And
other.
it was a concern like, well, do you think they'll work well together? Can Joe and Kenny work well together? Like, Kenny's pretty particular on who he works with. And it was like, no. And but we kind of you don't. You're terrible. No, but we kind of laughed that off because it was like, well, we've known each other for 20 plus years. I think we'll be able to do this.
Yeah.
And it went very well, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell me, no, I sucked my season, but I don't care.
No, it was fine.
I know that I ran it like a festival, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's,
But enough patting myself on the back. Thank you guys for your time.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You guys are every Tuesday releasing
Yes.
episodes, right?
And it's called We Have No Idea What We're Talking About.
let's plug that some more. We have no idea what we're talking about. It's where's it available?
As of right now, it's not on the Spotify's or the iTunes yet. That should actually start next week.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's news to Kenny. But it should start like next week. It's on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook. The Facebook, and we're also on Instagram as well.
Or you can come to my apartment and I'll play it.
Yeah.
And you can
Is that-
listen.
Who's that invite to right now? Like, at this point, because
Everybody.
everybody.
Mark Nelson.
Mark Nelson.
Eric
Lurch.
Ortiz and Lurch. Tony's welcome. Tony's welcome. Actually, I'm pretty sure you don't live too far from Sergio either. You guys are pretty close to each other over there.
Yeah, I know him.
Right.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
You guys are acquaintances.
You should. You guys are acquaintances. You guys
He's
are
an
definitely.
acquaintance.
He's definitely an acquaintance. Well, thank you guys again.
Cool.
That's about all I got.
Perfect.
So, do you want us to bill you direct or?
You can send it to your acquaintance.
He handles my business as well, so.
All right. Well.
Yeah, so we'll bill you for this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hour.
the check's in the mail actually
Okay.
already. So, thank you guys again. Another episode of 2 Drink Minimum in the books. I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing what you guys do next.
Awesome.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Joe.
it.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 9 of 2 Drink Minimum. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really feel like those guys could have gone on for several more hours talking about God knows what, but very entertaining podcast. Thank you so much to Kenny Braasch and Tony Martino for sitting down with Joe and just talking shop as we like to do here. Again, their podcast is called We Have No Idea What We're Talking About, so download and subscribe to them today. You heard them on our podcast, and you know those boys can talk, so give that a listen. Hey, Kenny, Tony, maybe return the favor, have us on one of your podcasts, maybe. Just throwing it out there, You don't like it, send it right back, as they say. But thank you to both of them. Very entertaining stuff. I loved listening to it. Hope you did too. You got any questions? You got comments? You can reach out to us at podcast@kickerrock.com. That's podcast@kickerrock.com. Once again, this has been 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, talking shop. Cheers, everybody.